Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
What's going on, y'all? Icon here, going over tonight's Money in the Bank pay-per-view. We have another one of these cinematic wrestling matches coming up, which for the Money in the Bank can be very interesting. And I think what's even more interesting, it's not so much the fact that it's going to be a cinematic match. It's not so much the fact that it's going to have the men and the women competing at the same time. But it's going to be on the roof of the WWE headquarters building, and to me, I'm just like, yeah. But it was also pre-taped. Like I think they pre-taped it like 2 weeks ago or whatever. So, well, like I said, it'll obviously close the show. And the disappointing thing about it closing the show is that whoever wins the briefcase, we both know like that Well, I mean, actually, no. I mean, I'm not 100% sure because, for all we know, like the Money in the Bank match could be in the middle of the program, and the SmackDown Women's Title match and the Universal and the WWE title match could be afterwards. Because the thing is, because it was pre-taped, and because it was shot at the at WWE headquarters, you feel like no one's going to cash in tonight. That there's no chance in hell that anybody's going to cash in tonight. And to me, like, that takes a little bit out of it, but you know, it is what it is. So we'll see what happens. So let's get things started off with the pre-show match. We might have two pre-show matches, but let's talk about the first one and see where it goes from there. So the first pre-show match was Cesaro versus Jeff Hardy. And normally, this would be a great match that everybody would be looking forward to. This would be a... I mean, it would... I don't want to say a dream match, but, you know, Cesaro versus Jeff Hardy, like, that's a damn good match. Like, you know, that's a match that you put that on any card, you know, people are going to come watching. But for me, like, a little bit of it was ruined because Jeff Hardy just returned. And because Jeff Hardy just returned and he's going into a program with Sheamus, it's pretty obvious that Jeff Hardy was going to win this match. And then we all know Vince doesn't like Cesaro anyway. So, like, there's no circumstances, there's no situation in which I can see Cesaro going over Jeff Hardy in Jeff Hardy's pay-per-view return. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, it was a good match by both competitors. You know, like, I did watch it because I do enjoy both wrestlers. But in the end, Jeff Hardy did get the victory. You know, Cesaro, I think that's his second or third pre-show match, because I know he pre-showed. He was on the pre-show at WrestleMania because he fought Drew Gulak in the pre-show WrestleMania, and then I think he was on a pre-show match before that. But yeah, but Cesaro's still main eventing these pre-shows, and you know, good win for Jeff Hardy, and we'll see what happens when the program between he and Sheamus finally kicks off. So the match to open MIB was the SmackDown Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match between the New Day, Miz and Morrison, hey hey, ho ho, the Lucha House Party, minus Kalisto, and the Forgotten Sons with Jackson Ryker, who does absolutely nothing. And you know, it's typical match, four corners. You know, two people start, you got to tag. You know, this, that, and the third. So, a lot of good action. They set it up to where it appeared that Miz and Morrison might actually get the belts back. You know, and even then, like, you know, it appeared, you know, they throughout the week, like on SmackDown television, they put a little bit more emphasis on the Forgotten Sons to make them look more like a credible threat. So, you know, so this way, like, people think that maybe the Forgotten Sons would take the belts, but, you know, but in the end, but the Lucha House Party was the one team out of the four where nobody obviously expected them to win the belts, and they used them to quote unquote take the fall, because if they're trying to build up the Forgotten Sons to be a credible threat, and if Miz and Morrison want to hold on to their name value, you know, again, like, nobody, I mean, I hate to say it like that, but nobody really cares about the Lucha House Party like that. So in the end, you know, like, a lot of back and forth action, everybody hitting their finishers, but then Big E was able to hit, you know, the big ending on Lindsay Dorado or Metalik, one of the two. He hit it on one of them, and Big E got the pin, and the New Day have retained the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. So now that the Lucha House Party is out of the mix, I assume next the Forgotten Sons are going to probably have like a small beef with Miz and Morrison to determine the number one contenders, and then ultimately the Forgotten Sons are going to get this tag team match. You know, during the match, you know, Jackson Ryker got, like, the referee kicked him out because he was cheating, and it's just like, when are you going to have I don't know if he's injured or what, but I'm just like, bro, like, have a singles match. Like, because even in NXT, like, he didn't wrestle in NXT. You know, he was just like, you know, it's like you're not their bodyguard, like, you're not their manager. So hopefully he's, you know, I mean, hopefully he's not injured. But if he is injured, that would make sense to why he's not doing anything. But I'd like to see the Forgotten Sons actually have a decent tag team run, and I'd like to see Jackson Riker put himself either in the IC title division or eventually make his way up to the heavyweight, because him versus Braun Strowman, I think would actually be a really cool match. But congrats to the New Day, still the 8-time WWE World Tag Team Champions. So the next match that followed that was the the very weird R-Truth versus MVP match, and I swear to God, like, I thought this was the pre-show match, because when I said earlier that I thought there were 2 pre-show matches, I thought this was going to be one of them, because I was just like, why would they give R-Truth and MVP like a spot on the card and have Jeff Hardy and Cesaro like on the pre-show? But so R-Truth, so we're doing this match, R-Truth versus MVP. R-Truth comes out first, does his entire rap entrance, and he's doing it as though there's an actual live audience in the crowd. He's like asking the fans to say what's up, nobody's saying it, and then he gets in the ring, and then he's just like, people, he said, everybody in the audience make some noise, and I'm just like, bro, there's nobody here. So typical R-Truth. So then MVP comes out, and then he gets in the ring, and then and then MVP grabbed the microphone, and then 2 of them got into an argument, and then R-Truth was just like, yo, I'm gonna show you how to ball, and he was just like, bro, ain't nothing you could show me, I'm MVP, like, I invented balling, and then, so the 2 of them are going back and forth, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Bobby Lashley's theme music hits, which got me excited, because I'm a huge Lashley fan. He gets in the ring, he tells MVP, he's like, bro, you can have the night off, I'll take care of R-Truth. And then MVP looks at R-Truth and goes, that's what's up. And then Bobby Lashley proceeded to beat R-Truth's ass and got the 1-2-3 victory. Now, obviously now I see why this match wasn't on the pre-show, but it's definitely nice to see Bobby Lashley like on a pay-per-view, because he really needs something to actually do and show his dominance of why he's the almighty. And and I said before, because it looks like they were going away from the whole Lana managing him, where like he's having Lana stay backstage. And, he's coming up with reasons for her not to come out, and, this, that, and the third. And then MVP, he's trying to put a stable together. So MVP and Bobby Lashley, when they were in TNA together, they were in a stable. It was the 2 of them and Kenny King. Yeah, it was Kenny King, Bobby Lashley, and MVP. Like the 3 of them, like they were a group. And while they were in a group, MVP, he actually had earned the #1 contendership to fight Eric Young for the TNA heavyweight title. But MVP got hurt, and then since Bobby Lashley was in his crew, Bobby Lashley took his place, and that's how Lashley became TNA champion, and then dominated for like the next 6 months to a year. So it's nice to see them putting that team back together, because MVP serving as Bobby Lashley's manager, which would be really cool. I don't like the fact that MVP is talking to those foreign dudes. I was about to call them TM61. The 2 guys those 2 new guys, one of them from NXT, but the 2 new guys that fought Cedric Alexander and Ricochet. Like, he's also talking about like managing them, and I'm just like, don't really do that. But hopefully, see, what my hope is, I hope that MVP ends up pulling a swerve on him. Shout out to Scott. And I hope that he ends up turning on the 2 young kids and ends up managing Alexander and Ricochet, so then MVP can have a stable of Alexander and Ricochet for the tag team, Bobby Lashley as the heavyweight title contender, and then if Apollo Crews turns heel when he comes back, he can manage him for the middleweight, for the middleweight division, and then MVP will have a stable of 4, really awesome, like top, brown skin talent. So, like I said, I'm looking forward to that, and, we'll see how the whole thing unfolds, but nice to see Bobby Lashley again on a pay-per-view picking up a W, because he needs to get the steam rolling, and I would definitely love to see Lashley versus Drew McIntyre at some point for the WWE Championship. Up next was the SmackDown Women's Championship match, Bayley versus Tamina, with Sasha Banks at ringside. And let's be honest, I like Tamina, I'm a fan of Tamina, I root for Tamina, but we all know Tamina wasn't winning this match. So the match starts with Sasha and Bayley coming up to the gorilla position. They're taught, Sasha was looking good in the outfit. Sasha's outfit game has been on point for the last 2 months or so. Bayley cut, she's gonna, they were about to, the interviewer asked them something, Bayley jumped in and did all the talking, and then the 2 of them went out. So Tamina shows up, they're having their match. Tamina was on her game, I can't even front, Tamina, she was, She was there for all the counters. You know, she fended off both women very well. And, you know, I was never a fan of Bayley. Like, if you know me, like, if you listen to, you know, to my reviews and stuff, you know I was never a fan of Bayley. Like, I'm not a fan of Bayley. But heel turn Bayley, like, heel Bayley, I'm actually, like, I'm okay with heel Bayley. You know, because, like I said, she's not doing, like, the stupid balloon happy thing. Like, she's serious. Like, she's taking this shit seriously. And I like the fact that she's taking it seriously. She even does this thing where, you know, since there's no audience anymore and, like, all the arenas are empty, every single time, you know, like, and then, like, the announce table is basically right next to the ring. The wrestlers can hear the announcers while they're talking about them. So, and Bayley, she's been doing this thing where, like, a lot of times, like, when Michael Cole is calling her match, Michael Cole will say certain things about her, and then, you know, she'll respond to him, like, in the midst of the actual match. Like, even this time, you know, like, Tamina and Bayley, they were on the floor, they were on the outside, and then Bayley walked past the announce table. When Michael Cole talking to Corey Graves, he was just like, yeah, Bayley, you know, she's a SmackDown Women's Champion. She considers herself a role model to people all over the world. And then Bayley just turns and says, I am a role model, Michael Cole. You know, like, that's pretty, like, that's funny. Like, it's little things like that that make all the difference in the world for not having a live audience. And then even during, like, the championship introductions, when the announcer was just like, the challenger, Tamina, both Bayley and Sasha were like, you know, when they announced Tamina, Bayley and Sasha were like, boo. And then he was just, you know, then he was like, and you're champion, Bayley. And then both of them were like, yay, you know. So, like I said, it's the subtle things, it's the off-camera things, you know, like, it's the extra stuff, like the verbiage that makes these matches a lot better, that makes it entertaining despite, again, not having the live crowd. And it really shows you, like, which wrestlers are entertaining, which wrestlers pay attention to this shit, and which ones are just folding in to get a paycheck. So good, like I said, good filler SmackDown's women's match, and the road continues for the inevitable Sasha versus Bayley match, which will probably take place at SummerSlam. Now we have the Universal Championship match between Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman. And thank God they did not have Bray Wyatt come out as The Fiend. Bray Wyatt came out as Mr. Rogers. He even wrestled in the damn sweater. And you know, and I'm very glad that they did that, because the whole thing, like, I always felt that Bray Wyatt versus versus Braun Strowman for the title, I felt like they pulled that trigger way too early. You know, like, that's a match that, you know, we could get for SummerSlam, or we can get somewhere down the road. Something that you build to, not right out of the gate when Braun just won the damn title. So, by having Braun defeat Mr. Rogers, Bray Wyatt, it doesn't hurt Bray Wyatt, because we all know that eventually he can pull out The Fiend, and now we can build towards Braun Strowman versus The Fiend in a title match. And, you know, we don't have to feel like we just wasted, you know, like we just wasted the entire situation of the two of them going head to head. So, I do have a slight criticism with the end of the match, because during the match, like, the two of them were going back and forth, and Braun Strowman was on the outside, Bray Wyatt was in the ring. So Braun Strowman gets to his, he goes from his knees, he gets to his feet. The camera wasn't on Braun while he was trying to get up. The camera was in the ring looking at Bray the whole time. So now Braun Strowman gets to his feet, Bray looks at him, and Braun has the black goat mask on his face, like the old Wyatt black goat mask. So now Bray's like, yes, like, you've made the transition, you're coming home, like, I knew it all along, ha ha ha. And this is where they lost me, because I was perfectly fine with every single thing that happened, but while the two of them are standing next to each other, like, Braun Strowman even got on his knees and, like, raised his arms in the air. And, you know, Bray Wyatt's like, yes, my brother, you know, like I told you, this, that, and the third. And then Braun Strowman takes the mask off, and then Bray's like, what are you doing? He throws the mask on the floor, and then he steps on the mask, picks up Bray, and then gives him a power slam. And I'm just like, that was dumb to me, because if you're Bray Wyatt and you see that he's taken off the mask, and you see that this whole thing with him putting the mask on, if you see that it was a ruse, and like, this whole thing was a joke, you know, like, he wasn't being serious, why would you, it's like, why didn't you run? Why didn't you get out of the way? It's like, you allowed him to pick you up. It would have been better if Braun would have kept the mask on, and when Bray gave him a hug, then Braun picked him up while he had the mask still on, and then power slammed him. So this way Bray didn't see it coming. The way that they ended the whole thing, Bray Wyatt saw, like, you saw it coming. So if anything, it just proves that Bray Wyatt's a dumbass, because he just, like, he knew what was about to happen. He still allowed it to happen. But despite that, Braun Strowman obviously retains the belt, because, again, the moment, especially, like, I mean, I don't think anybody knew that. I don't think anybody felt that Braun Strowman was going to lose this match. But the moment he ended up wrestling Mr. Rogers, like, yeah, like, we pretty much knew it was a done deal after that. So, And this is weird because next we have the Raw Heavyweight Championship match, and it's barely 8:30. You know, these pay-per-views are supposed to be like 4 hours long or 3 hours and some change, and it's we got one singles match left, and it's not even 8:30 yet. So if the Drew McIntyre Seth Rollins match ends at around like 8:45, I know for a fact this Money in the Bank shit ain't gonna last no 2 hours. So my guess is that the show's probably gonna end early. Like, we're not gonna go to 11 o'clock or 10:45. The show's probably gonna be like, my guess is the show's probably gonna be over at like 10:15, because like I said, unless they end up adding some other matches that they didn't tell us about prior, ain't no way in hell this Money in the Bank cinematic shit's gonna last no 2 damn hours. So so we'll see what happens. And like I said, we got one more title match coming up, so let's talk about that. So the WWE title match was very good, and you knew it was gonna be good because of the people that were involved. You know, McIntyre and Seth, they put on a good show. And I'm gonna be honest, like, this match, like, I was very invested in this match. I was very into it, and I was so into it to the point where, because people always talk about, like, oh, there's no crowd. I didn't give a damn about the crowd. Like, I don't watch wrestling for the crowd. Like, I don't watch wrestling for the audience. Whenever someone's like, oh, it's like, oh, how can you watch wrestling in an empty arena? Because I don't watch wrestling to see the people. I watch wrestling to see the performers, to see the wrestlers. I watch them to put on a wrestling match. And these two put on a damn good wrestling match. The ending sequence of the match, because like they pretty much, you know how it is. Like, they kick out of everything. Like, Seth kicked out of the Future Shock DDT. Drew McIntyre, he kicked out of a curb stomp. A couple of Falcon Arrows. But in the end sequence, Seth, Drew Mac was getting up. Seth was like coming around the corner. He went for another curb stomp, and when he went for the curb stomp, Drew moved out the way and gave Rollins a headbutt. After Seth took the headbutt, came back with a super kick, and then Drew took the super kick and then came back with a with his finisher, and then he put Seth Rollins down. He caught him good, because like when he caught him with that Claymore kick, you heard like the bow, and then he pinned him, got the 1, 2, 3, and then after the match was over, Drew when Seth Rollins got to his feet, Drew walked over to him. And he stuck his hand out, and he was just like, he told him, he said, yo, thanks for the match. He was like, yo, Seth, you're the man, just not tonight. And he was like, you want to be a leader? He was like, show the fans that you're a leader, shake my hand like a man. And, to his credit, Seth shook his hand. Like, he didn't cheat. He didn't hit him in the nuts. He didn't do anything underhanded. He shook his hand like a man, so can't be mad at that. And then Drew McIntyre left, and we'll see where this goes from here. Maybe Seth Rollins is going to turn face, I don't know, but, like I said, I don't even know who Drew's next challenger is going to be, because I know I said before, it was obviously because of the pandemic situation, maybe that's why, but it just sucked that Kevin Owens beat Seth Rollins twice at WrestleMania, but Seth Rollins got the title match. So we'll see what happens when this whole ordeal is over, and we'll see who Drew McIntyre's next challenge is. And finally, we had the men's and women's Money in the Bank match. So I guess the show, is gonna end. Like, the show pretty much ended like 9:30. So which was good. Which means if they started at 8, it would have been over. Like, it would have been over at like 10:30, which would have been normal anyway. So, and I have to say, I had my reservations about it. I had my concerns about it, but this was actually very entertaining. Now, I'm not advocating that they do cinematic things all the time, because you know how Vince is. Like, Vince will take like the whole cinematic thing. He'll jump off that bridge and do that shit for like for everything. But no, it was the match was really good. Like, the women started out in the lobby by the elevators. The men started in the weight room, which was, I was just like, what the hell are they doing in the weight room? When the match started, the first thing, like, Rey Mysterio goes after Aleister Black, and Aleister Black almost hit his spine on the like on the damn weights that were set up in the back. So, and then they did this thing where Baron Corbin was fighting Daniel Bryan. And then Daniel, like, Baron Corbin picked up one of the weights, and he took one of the weights and threw it at Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan got out of the way, and the weight smashed him. It like obliteratedly smashed like a mirror that was in the background. And then Baron Corbin had that look on his face like, oh shit. And I was like, yeah, it's coming out of you. I thought Vince was gonna show up and be like, that's coming out of your paycheck, pal. So then like Asuka's like the women were in the lobby. Asuka was was on the floor above the elevators, and then like she jumped off and like did a splash. Asuka jumped in the elevator, and then she started going up. Then the rest of the women took the stairs. You know, so everybody, they fighting up the stairs. You know, AJ Styles, he went into a room and he started having like Undertaker flashbacks because like in Titan Towers they have posters up everywhere of different wrestlers, and then every time he saw like an Undertaker poster, he started freaking out. And then he went into a room that actually had like a casket in it, and then it had like the smoke and the music started playing, so Styles started freaking out over that. You know, the women, you know, like the women were pretty funny about it. They did this thing where they went into a conference room and there was a Money in the Bank briefcase that actually had money in it that was hanging up above the conference room, and then Dana Brooke unhooked it, and then she was like, I won Money in the Bank, and then Stephanie showed up. We got a Stephanie cameo, and she was just like, bitch, like, that's not the Money in the Bank briefcase, you know. And then we Brother Love showed up. He was in the bathroom. Paul Heyman showed up. We had Doink. We had a Doink the Clown sighting, which was funny. Paul Heyman was in catering, eating catering, and then all 12 participants showed up in the catering room, and then they started a food fight. Like Shayna Baszler put Rey Mysterio in a chokehold. You know, and then both Nia Jax and Otis did a double body avalanche. You know, on Shayna and Rey Mysterio. You know, Carmella was running from, you know, Carmella was running from people, but when she got caught, like there was one point where she tried to run from Nia Jax, but when Nia Jax got her, then she tried to fight. You know, so I said, but it was then they had the spot where they went into Vince McMahon's office. They did the Vince McMahon spot, and then it was AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan who went into Vince McMahon's office. They were fighting in his office, and then Vince looked at them like, "Y'all motherfuckers better get out my motherfucking office." And then the two of them, like, you know, they got scared, and then like they left, like they fixed up his office and his chairs and everything. And then as soon as they walked out of the room, like Vince took some Purell and started like sanitizing his hands. And then Styles and Bryan were like making fun of each other. They were just like, dude, like he was like Styles to Bryan. He was like, bro, like you walked out of there like a bitch. And he was like, me. He was like, you're the one that fixed his chairs, whatever. You know, and like Lacey Evans was doing good too. Like she was very like Lacey Evans like generally is a very like stoic, like serious type character. But you know, she was able to play with this, which I thought was entertaining and very cool as well. So then finally, we get to the roof. The first person that got to the roof was I believe was Asuka, and then it was either Asuka or no, it was Nia Jax. Like Nia Jax, I believe, was the first person who got to the roof, and then Asuka showed up, and then Lacey Evans showed up. The men didn't get to the first person that got to the roof for the men was Baron Corbin, and then you know the only three women that were there was Asuka, it was Asuka. It was Nia Jax, and it was Lacey Evans. So so now they're all fighting, and then Nia Jax got knocked down, Lacey Evans got knocked down, and then it was Asuka by herself. Baron Corbin ends up climbing the ladder along with Asuka, and then now we got Baron Corbin and Asuka on the because both the men's and the women's briefcase were hanging next to each other. So Asuka and Baron Corbin, they're both on the ladder right now. And then Asuka kicked Baron Corbin, and Baron Corbin fell down. And then Asuka went and pulled the briefcase. So Asuka is the Money in the Bank women's winner. And I kind of knew that was going to happen because ever since Asuka started doing like the goofy, silly, like haha joking stuff, it was rumored backstage that now all of a sudden Vince McMahon is very high on Asuka because now that she's acting like a damn fool. So I was just like, if Vince likes her, it's like she's probably going to win the briefcase. So now she's going to be dancing with the briefcase and everything. And you know, like her and Becky Lynch have a one-on-one. They're both one-on-one now because Asuka beat Becky at the Royal Rumble. Becky got her revenge. I think it was the Royal Rumble again. Becky got her revenge on Asuka again. So now they're one-on-one. So they could do a potential thing with that. It's a shame for Shayna Baszler because I feel like the only reason why Shayna got put in this match was just so she could show like her entertainment side. And Shayna did very well in the match. Like I can't front, but it's just a shame. Like, and I love Asuka, but I thought Shayna was gonna get it because I like to see Shayna be redeemed after what they did to her at WrestleMania. But say la vie, that's not gonna happen. You know, so since Asuka won the women's match, like that portion of it was over. The rest of the guys showed up, and then now all the men are fighting to try to get the briefcase, try to get the men's briefcase, and then it happened. You know, because there were certain things that we knew were going to happen. We knew there was going to be fighting in the elevator. We knew there was going to be fighting in stairs. We knew they were going to go in Vince McMahon's office because everybody brought it up 50 million times about Vince McMahon's office. But the one thing I did not think was going to happen, there was a moment where Baron Corbin, because remember, the ring is on top of the roof of Titan Tower. And if you've ever seen Titan Tower or seen a picture of Titan Tower, that thing is extremely high off the ground. And there's a ring sitting there outside on top of the roof. Baron Corbin and Rey Mysterio were brawling on the floor. Baron Corbin grabbed Rey Mysterio and threw him off the roof. Like, I'm going to say this again. Baron Corbin threw Rey Mysterio off the roof of Titan Tower. And then he followed that up because then Aleister Black was fighting him. And then Baron Corbin threw Aleister Black off the roof of Titan Tower. I'm going to say this one more time. Baron Corbin threw two people. Baron Corbin committed murder and threw two people off of the roof of Titan Tower. And obviously, we never saw Rey Mysterio or Aleister Black again. And because obviously we all know they're not dead, and just because Rey Mysterio and Aleister Black are both Raw superstars, they can't even get their revenge on Baron Corbin because Baron Corbin's on SmackDown. So then in the end, you know, it came down to so Otis showed up. Otis tried to climb the ladder and he couldn't climb the ladder because Otis was so damn big. Every time he tried to climb the ladder, he kept breaking the steps. So it comes down to Baron Corbin and AJ Styles. They're both on top of the ladder. Baron Corbin, you know, like AJ Styles knocks Baron Corbin down. Otis is just standing there like a dumbass. Like he's like trying to like get in the ring or whatever, but he's standing because he can't climb the ladder because his fat ass can't get up there. So AJ Styles gets to the top of the ladder. He unhooks the. Now follow me here. AJ Styles grabbed the when Baron Corbin was down. AJ Styles took the briefcase, had the briefcase in his hand. AJ Styles unhooked the briefcase. He took the briefcase off of the hook. He got it off of the hook. Styles had the briefcase in both of his hands. He had the briefcase in both of his hands unhooked. But he had his hands above his head because obviously he had to reach up to grab the briefcase. As he's bringing it down, he boggled it. It slipped out of his fingertips. The briefcase fell out of his hand and Otis caught it. And the referees said Otis was the winner of Money in the Bank. And I'm like, that's flat out 100% complete bullshit. AJ Styles had the briefcase. AJ Styles unhooked the briefcase. AJ Styles had, like, once you unhook it, it is in your possession. And they can't say, like, oh, like, he boggled it or whatever. He unhooked it, and it was touching both of his hands as he was bringing it down. So, and let's be 100% real. We all know Otis is not going to win the heavyweight championship. And the sad part about the whole Otis and Mandy thing with Otis's newfound popularity, the sad part about the whole thing is that they shitted on Tucker, you know, because Tucker's the one who basically, I mean, because at least with Mandy Rhodes, like Mandy Rhodes, she gets a feud with Sonya Deville. Dolph Ziggler's always going to be Dolph Ziggler. This ain't going to hurt Dolph Ziggler. The person who really loses here is Tucker. Tucker got shitted on. And we know for a fact Otis is not going to win the WWE or the Universal Championship. So the fact that Otis even won that briefcase is ridiculous. And that kind of like, I enjoyed 99% of this match. That was the 1% of the match that was stupid. And despite the fact that there is a difference of brands, I truly hope AJ Styles shows up on Monday night, not Monday Night Raw. I hope AJ Styles shows up on SmackDown and challenges Otis for that briefcase because he should not have that briefcase. AJ Styles won that match fair and square, and that was some bullshit. But like I said, but it was good. Like the way they did it was good. Like the way they shot it was good. The way they did it was good, and it was entertaining. And the best part about it is the show ended at 9:30, so it's not like we got to sit here till freaking midnight. You know, because like I said, because when the match started at 8:55, so the whole match was about 35 minutes, so which was cool. So kudos to WWE for that. You know, you actually made this Money in the Bank very entertaining, and we'll see what Asuka does with her briefcase and see what they do with Otis's briefcase, because he's either going to be on the list of someone who cashed in and failed, or, you know, somebody's going to beat him for the briefcase at some point down the line. Maybe Dolph Ziggler. So that was it. That was my review for this year's Money in the Bank 2020. I don't give a damn what Michael Cole say. Fuck control. He was like, oh, Otis had control of the briefcase. AJ Styles didn't have control. That's bullshit. AJ unhooked the damn thing. So anyway, thank you for tuning in on what was actually, it was a very good show. Like on a scale, surprisingly, like I will give this show an 8. On a scale of 1 to 10, I will give this show an 8. The show was done very well, and the fact that the Money in the Bank cinematic match entertained me, and the fact that Bobby Lashley wrestled, I got to see Sasha Banks. I can't complain. I'm very happy about what I got. So that was it. Thank you for tuning in. Leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think about the ending of the Otis situation? Do you think Otis should be the winner? Do you think AJ got screwed or not? Personally, I think AJ got screwed, but that's just me. So like I said, leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Check out my other videos I got coming down the woodwork. And until next time, for Money in the Bank, y'all, I'm out this. Be out!